Hello all, welcome to the weekly webinar. This has been organized for QuickSight customers to learn about product functionalities, new feature launches, best practices and tips on how to improve their user experience and gain technical knowledge from QuickSight solution architects and product managers. In today's learning series session, we will deep dive on embedding. My name is Neeraj Kumar and I'm a QuickSight solution architect here at AWS. I also have my colleague Salim Khan, who will be presenting with me today. And we also have Anwar, who will be moderating the webinar and responding to the questions you will be posting in the community. Now, where do you go if you have questions about QuickSight? QuickSight community is the one-stop shop for all your BI journey. This is the place to connect with other QuickSight users and is the first place you should look for answers to your questions. You can search for answers, ask new questions, connect with other users, and find new resources. We also post all the latest announcements, events, blogs, and learning resources here, including many examples created by me and my colleagues in our Demo Central section. Not to miss our weekly online learning series scheduled every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific and Thursday at 10 a.m. Central European Time. We also have our monthly online events on first Friday focusing on new features, and then second and third Wednesday we are also doing immersion days. And we have on every fourth Thursday of a month a live Q&A session with our experts. So if you haven't done so already, now would be a great time to join the community and bookmark it for future reference. You can log into community.amazonquicksite.com. Once you are on the QuickSight community page, here is what the Q&A section looks like. You can search at the top, and if you don't find an immediate answer, post a new question. You do need an ID to post for the first time, and this will require an Amazon.com login. And to make sure our experts on this live session get you an answer quickly, use the hashtag QLS-embedding, and we'll be prioritizing these questions all day today. Let me show you on the community page. This is my login on the community.amazonquicksite.com. You can go into the categories. You have a question and answers, and you can go to new questions and post your questions, and always look for a tag. So which is like QLS-embedding. Look for this tag and post your questions, which Anwar is monitoring, and will be able to provide you all the responses there. Moving on. In today's session also will be recorded, and we will have this posted to our YouTube channel and community by end of the week. Moving on to our topic for today's discussion. So as per the recent market trends on embedding, as observed by Gartner, we have 25% of analytics capabilities are embedded in business applications, and 40% of organizations are embedding analytics. Similarly, we have trend quoted by businesswire.com. As you see, embedded analytics market will grow significantly by 2027 at compound annual growth rate of 14.7%. As we know, data is essential for any organization, and a company's product of application can generate the high volumes of structured and unstructured data. This can be your clickstream data, operational metrics, or your transactional data, user data, and much more. Owners of these applications not only want to differentiate their product from competitors, but also want to gain insights from data and delight their end users. These end users can be internal teams or department, or they could be external customers. These insights can help application owners and end users understand their usage better. For example, end users of banking application wanting to understand their own spend, or could be a teachers or educators wanting to understand the student behavior better. And that's where with AWS, you have a broad suite of data and analytics services that help you generate insights from your data. Now, once you have these insights, how do you make them available to your end users? And that's where embedded analytics comes into play. You can provide timely, actionable details that help your users make data-driven decisions with embedded analytics. As part of the agenda today, we are going to discuss briefly about Amazon QuickSight and why embedded analytics is key here. We'll provide you overview of embedding and then go deeply into the different methods of embedding, and we'll supporting it with a few demos and examples. Let's talk about QuickSight and how it's helping our customer. So ultimately, since the launch of QuickSight for general availability, we are partnering with our customers and we are understanding the needs, and then we are ultimately innovating on their behalf. So this legacy approach is no longer working for our customers when you are having this fragmented approach to getting insights from data. You ultimately end up with multiple systems, you have multiple versions of truth, and you have these data complexities that we talked about, and also just with that, the end user confusion arises. So what we have seen is organizations having one system for paginated reportings. They might have one system for self-service business intelligence, and have observed that there are a lot of times like they have homegrown embedded analytics solutions that they have built in the past. And then with that, they are also using additional tools for forecasting or for finding the anomalies within the data. So this is causing you to have more of a siloed BI environments, and you have a different data layers for each of these siloed BI environments. So ultimately, you will have to specifically train staff for each of these services in each of these environments, because every user interface is going to be different for each of these products. And then on top of it, you are also going to pay separate fees for licensing and infrastructure. So modern approach is to create a data-driven culture rather than struggling to work with the disjointed legacy systems. Your authors can ultimately use one unified system. So if you enable QuickSight, it gets you interactive dashboarding. You will have a paginated reporting. You have a natural language querying with Q, and then you have the ability to take QuickSight and all its functionality and embed it into the applications and provide the insights wherever your users need to empower that vehicle, which becomes your data-driven culture. Now, this applies whether you are simply providing a public statistics or dashboards for millions of users, or trying to build an enterprise application for your company's internal or external population, or could be a multi-tenant large-scale software as a service, or a SaaS application for hundreds of thousands of users. So embedded analytics allows you to basically present actionable insights to your users every step of the journey, no matter which use case you are dealing with. There are different ways to get there. An obvious one is to build the embedded analytics capabilities from scratch along with the application. Now, from a business perspective, embedded analytics can improve customer engagement and retention with the innovative product solutions. It can offer end users compelling data-driven experiences to differentiate your applications, or can create a new monetization opportunities by providing customers with actionable data insights. From the technical standpoint, embedded analytics greatly enhances the time to market. So you can get your embedded pieces out to market really quickly without having to worry about your open source libraries, data connections, data scaling, or scaling the entire infrastructure as you roll this out to market. You're also able to reduce ongoing expenditure because you no longer have to have a dedicated teams that are just building out embedded analytics. You no longer have to worry about the software upgrades as such from time to time, because all of this now captured in that one single analytics package. And also you can have a deep analytical machine learning capabilities to further explore your data. How it works. So essentially you can import data for your multiple sources, be it from multiple cloud environments or your on-prem data sources. You can store your data in data stores such as S3, Redshift, or any external data stores like Snowflake. Or you can use our cloud native superfast parallel in-memory calculation engine. We call it as SPICE. You can create your dashboard and embed dashboard and visuals in your applications, which you or your client can access from anywhere. To embed experience for your needs, first of all, interactive dashboard is not the only option that QuickSight offers for your business intelligence needs. With QuickSight, you can also deliver personalized emails to your end users with the analytics content or PDFs simply attached to them. And furthermore, you are able to provide self-service authoring, which means that you can allow certain users in your applications to create their own dashboards with data that's specifically curated for them. For situations in which you want to allow your business users to explore the data ad hoc beyond what is available on the provided dashboards, you can leverage QuickSight Q, a machine learning powered natural language capability that gives anyone in an organization the ability to ask business questions in natural language and receive answers in form of a relevant visualizations. You also have fully managed fine-grained visualizations for high-traffic applications with hundreds of thousands of users with row and column level data security, which can be another good candidate for embedding. Coming to embedding methods, Amazon QuickSight offers two fundamentally different approaches of how you can integrate its capabilities into your applications. We'll be looking at how less technical users with no code can leverage one-click embedding to easily embed dashboards within a couple of minutes, but also how more sophisticated integrations, which requires customizations, can be achieved using QuickSight APIs. We'll dive deeper into these categories in the upcoming slides. Uh, at First, let's get started with a one-click embedding. Anytime we start with embedding, the authors can go and create the rich interactive dashboards with all the drill downs and all sort of controls and put together the right story for the end users to consume. Once the dashboard is ready, you can work with an administrator to allow list the domains where you would like to embed. So these would be the domains where any content from your account can be embedded. So as you can see here, this is through the user interface where we'll talk about programmatic approach later, but that's how you can set up the domains. Let's understand deeply on how to embed the QuickSight dashboard into your application now. Talking about one-click embedding. So as the name one-click embedding indicates, this approach is fully UI based and is I would call it the simplest one and requires no code. There are two scenarios you can go with one-click embedding. You can embed a visual or a dashboard in your internal application for your registered users, or you can turn on public sharing in the QuickSight console. Doing this grants anyone on the internet access to a shared visual or a dashboard that is embedded in a public applications. It could be wiki or a portal. QuickSight supports one-click public embedding, and this is a feature that allows you to embed your dashboards into public applications, wikis, and portals without any coding or development needed. Anyone on the internet can start accessing these embedded dashboards with up-to-date information instantaneously, without any server deployments or infrastructure licensing needed. So one-click public embedding allows you to basically empower your end users with access to insights. And this is the best use case for public-facing applications built on Google sites, wikis, schools, government, or marketing apps. You can pick or select visual or a dashboard accessible to you and embed in your application using an embed code provided by QuickSight. You get this code when you share the dashboard or from the embed visual menu in your Amazon QuickSight. So for one-click embedding your account, and that's the key, that it needs to have a session capacity pricing enabled. Let's see how we can do it. Moving on to my account. So First of all, here is the sample Google site page I have. So before we embed, let's go into the QuickSight account and let's turn on the public access for the dashboard. So this requires, first of all, the admin access for your account to get into the Manage console. So let me go into the Manage console for my account. As I go into it, I can go into the security and permissions. And there's an option for public access to dashboards. It allows dashboard to share with the unregistered users. So you can click on manage and you can allow it to anyone on the internet to turn on this feature in your environment. Once confirmed, you can go back into the QuickSight environment again, again into the console, and again back to the manage console. And here now you can put the domain where you want to embed the dashboard. So in this case, like when you click on the domains and embedding within the manage consoles, you can provide like sites.google.com, and also we require a Google user content and gstatic.com. You can enable these three sites, right? And when you do the allow listing and add sites.google.com, now you can go to the dashboards. So let's go back to the dashboard. So in this example, I'm taking up any company business review analysis. So this is the dashboard we have with a set of few visuals. I can go into the share dashboards, and now we can share it to everyone. So there's an option there on the share dashboard, like you can share it, enable access for anyone on the internet. So when we are turning it on, so this is the one particular dashboard we are turning it on for. So once confirmed, this particular dashboard is now can be used for public embedding. Finally, let's go and take the embed code. So on top, you have a link and you have a copy embed code, which QuickSight provides you. You can just take that particular link, this copy embed code, and then get into your Google Sites. So I have the page already there, and I can add a content here. So I can just go in embed and then go into the embed code, provide my HTML code there, which is part of the which has the iframe and the link to the dashboard. Once we have that, we can insert that particular one and we can resize, fit it into our visuals, and we can see that my dashboard is embedded into your Google site page. And then I can publish that. And then once published, it can be accessed from anybody from the internet. Again, this is the particular one key point to note here. Only the dashboard I selected is accessible for public view. So there's no other dashboard that can be accessed. You can now get into I have a one any company.us. That's the domain I have. So when I click on that, you might see now this particular dashboard is accessible, which even you can try accessing because it's for public view, all right? And that's what, as part of this exercise for public one-click public embedding, we did that. Now let's go back to the deck. Let's talk about another form of one-click embedding for your enterprise users. So when you share a dashboard with registered users in your account, you can copy and embed code for the dashboard and paste it into your internal applications HTML. When users and groups or all users on your QuickSight account who have access to this dashboard access your internal applications, they are prompted to sign into the QuickSight account with their credentials. So after they are authenticated, they can access the dashboards on their internal page. If you have a single sign-on enabled, users are not prompted to sign in again. Let me demo on how you can embed a QuickSight content into your SharePoint portal, which is again another example we are going to take for one-click enterprise embedding. And you can, with that, you can share with your enterprise users in just a matter of few clicks. Let me switch to my demo. So again, going back to my QuickSight account, I can go to my QuickSight account and see like there are a couple of dashboards. I'm taking this particular any company sales as an example. And I have a SharePoint site, which I can open up now. And when I go into it, I can embed the content here. Going back to my QuickSight dashboard, I can go into the option of sharing the dashboard, and I can share it with a particular users in my account, or I can share it to a groups who have access to this dashboard to make the accessible to them. Or I can even enable the access for all the users, enterprise users within my account. I can turn on that as well. So that's another way. So once the dashboard is being shared, you can take the copy embed code on the top and then again go back into your SharePoint site and you can edit the page. So once you added the page, it gives you an options to embed the code. So again, it's right now I have in the frequently used, but you can go to the advanced options and embed the code and provide your embed code provided by the QuickSight. Once this is done, the page will be embedded within your SharePoint portal. Again, this is what we did it for a dashboard. If I want to just take a particular visual of this particular dashboard, even I can take into account that also. So for each and every visuals, I have like this is as an author, I can access the embed visual and I can copy this particular code. I can access even the IDs, sheets, and visual IDs respectively, and that can be used for our APIs. So for now, this is a embed code generated. I can take into account, and let's say if I wanted to make this particular change, instead of going for a dashboard, I can go for a visual embedding. And once it has been provided, then it will basically access my one particular visual that I have access and I can republish that. So my SharePoint content will have access to the one particular visual, or I can embed a particular visual or a dashboard within my SharePoint portal. Going back to the deck again. As you could have seen by now in both approaches, getting started with the embedded analytics is being quite simple and fast using our QuickSight's one-click embedding capability. Adding further to help customize experience programmatically, we allow embedding through the APIs. Now from here on, let's go get into the specific of API-based embedding. With API-based, you can approach embedding in two ways. One is you can allow embedding for anonymous users. This is when you have thousands of users whom you don't want to manage, or you can set up the anonymous user access. That's where the API generate embedded URL for anonymous users comes into play. In case you wanted to go it for registered users, this is when you have the flexibility of user management. You can manage the registered users in QuickSight and perform user-based embedding. And this is where you will use the API generate embedded URL for registered users. Here, both programmatic approach of integrating QuickSight in your applications allow you to list the domains. To facilitate embedding programmatically, we offer a rich set of QuickSight APIs operations. We saw previously in one-click embedding a static URL pointing to a specific dashboard that was embedded as part of the application. API-based embedding, on the other hand, would generate dynamic URL, which allows changing the embedded dashboards at runtime. So you can authenticate users with an identity provider of your choice, and the application can make calls to access the QuickSight on their behalf. The embedding of the generated URL itself happens in an iframe. So here the Amazon QuickSight JavaScript SDK will let you embed the QuickSight experience in your application pages. You can further customize the experience by passing the parameters or providing the navigation options or to a different dashboard. And even you can react to actions taken on the dashboard in the parent applications. The SDK is available in multiple programming languages like Python, Go, and Java. So, and before we talk about the details around API-based embedding in action, let's look into the end-to-end workflow to understand the communication between the components involved in making this possible. First, the user opens the web page or the application on a client device. The client application requests a page from the application server running in the backend. At this point, the application server communicates with the services it depends on in order to build that page. Once user is authenticated, now based on the approach we take, be it a registered user API or anonymous API, it invokes a QuickSight API call to obtain that URL. The URL is then passed back to the client, which is embedded into the application using QuickSight JavaScript SDK. This transparently loads the experience from QuickSight into the client applications. Finally, the application displayed to the user is a seamless integration of their own content and the QuickSight experience. As we dig into the specific details of anonymous embedding, we can programmatically embed the dashboard, the visual, and Q, which is the QuickSight natural language query capability, as we talked about earlier. So from here now, I'll have Salim to take over and go through the steps in detail, talk about the different methods of API-based embedding, and he will also be supported by demos. So over to you, Salim.
Thank you, Dheeraj. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. And if you can just confirm that you can see my screen. Is my screen coming through?
Yep, we are good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Dheeraj.
Sure.
So as Neeraj mentioned, two different approaches to embedding that we have, right? So one click, which is low code, no code. You can basically do it very quickly using the UI itself, and then the API based, which you get programmatic access, and you can leverage the power of all the programming languages to customize the experience for the user, right? So as Neeraj explained, for anonymous embedding, we have three different experiences that you can use. You can actually embed the dashboard, a single visual, and the QuickSight Q search bar for anonymous embedding. Okay, so let's deep dive into taking a look at exactly how this is done and what are the use cases behind it and what is required to do this. Okay, so as the name specifies, this is best suited in use cases where you do not require to provision the user in your applications, right? This helps you roll out to Amazon QuickSight to end users faster. And as the application popularity grows, it will scale from tens to thousands of users, right? Uh, the business use case is to embed dashboards which are to be accessible by everyone. For example, a dashboard embedded on a public website that contains published statistics, or companies which want to embed dashboards in their internal portals for all the employees to access. And you still need the flexibility of embedding using the API so that you can actually manage multiple of those dashboards, right? And get more interaction and customization possible, right? Now let us take a look at the API call, which makes this possible. So in the anonymous embedding workflow, the QuickSight experience can be a visual, a dashboard, or the Q search bar. The API call is called the generate embed URL for anonymous user, which has the following request syntax. Right? To embed the dashboards in the application, the experience configuration value is set to the dashboard with the dashboard ID that you want your users to see first. We can see that as part of this API call, no user information is required. In order to define which dashboards the user can access during the lifetime of the session, they are to be configured in the authorized resource ARN parameter. If you want your users to ask questions in natural language, you can embed the Q search bar as the setting experience configuration for Q search bar. And you can specify the initial topic ID that basically will determine when you embed Q search bar, what topic is initially loaded into your bar. For visual embedding in the experience configuration, we need to specify the value for the visual ID along with the sheet ID and the dashboard ID, right? And in order to define which dashboard the user can access during the lifetime of the session, they are to be configured again the same way as in the authorized resource ARNs parameter. But sometimes limiting just access to the dashboard is not enough, right? You would rather also want to restrict access to the data within those dashboards. This is possible by using anonymous embedding with session tags. So in this embedding scenario, a SaaS provider can embed dashboard for different customers in the platform and restrict data access by using session tags. Also, large-scale enterprises can use anonymous embedding within the internal portals and restrict data access using these session tags. Like if you have a department, or if you're doing it by a particular user, or you have different groups accessing certain different data, all of that information can be passed um, from QuickSight when making that API call so that the end user can see the relevant data. So where are these session tags passed and how is it configured in QuickSight? Okay. The session tags is an optional parameter of the same anonymous embedding API call, right? So the application is responsible to determine the tag values, like for example, a region or a department or the user himself, right? And pass them at runtime when making the API call. Once the API call returns, basically, it will give you the proper information because QuickSight has passed that information for you. Now, let's quickly see a demo of anonymous embedding. Let me switch to my browser. Okay. So I have a fictitious company called Quick Motors, which I have some sample data behind scene. I have this application uh, which has different user roles defined, right? So I have a demo user who is a sales leader, which has access to data from the EMEA and the APJ group. I have a sales leader from global who has access to all the data behind the scenes, right? So when I'm logging in using these different profiles, uh, the application knows that I belong to a certain particular region, and that information is passed while making the anonymous call as the session tag and relevant data, or the QuickSight dashboard basically gives the relevant information back to the application, and the dashboard is rendered with secure data. Right. So let me log in with the global. You can see once I log into my application, I have this overview tab, right? And this overview tab, I have certain amount of text. This comes from my application on top. And these two visuals are getting generated by an anonymous embedding call for a visual ID, right? So the sales by order date is a separate visual in one of my dashboards, and the number of recalls is a separate visual in another dashboard of mine. So I was able to embed two separate visuals in the same page, right, while making that call, right? So this basically is embedding a visual based on the anonymous call that I made using the API. I can also embed the whole dashboard, right? So when I make this call, the whole dashboard with all the different sheets get embedded into my portal, right? And I can have the same interactivity that I have on the console, and my end user can experience this, right? So since I logged in as the global user, you see, I can see all the regions. If I logged in as some other profile, which has access to all Americas, I don't need to be able to see only Americas because the session tags are getting passed, and my uh, dashboard getting generated is from that particular session tag, right? I can navigate between different sheets. Okay, I can uh, drill up and drill down. I can change the view. Right. So you can see with an embedding experience itself, right, the user is getting the complete view, what you actually get from the console itself, right, and all within from your application itself. With anonymous embedding, you can also embed the QuickSight Q search bar, right, which is a natural language query processing functionality, right? So I have some sample questions which are already there. I can click on those, and that will populate and send information to my QuickSight Q bar, and it loaded the topic that it was there, and it generated the visual ID on the fly. I can also go ahead and type questions. I have some of these questions that I've already typed from before, so it appears before, or you can actually go ahead and type questions. And this basically gives your end users the capability to basically ask questions about the data that you have provided them in natural language, right? So with anonymous embedding, you see, we can embed the visual, the complete dashboard, or even the QuickSight Q search bar. Okay, moving on. So as mentioned before, with API-based embedding, you can use the rich QuickSight JavaScript SDK to easily integrate QuickSight dashboards in your application pages. Okay, set the defaults, connect controls, even handle errors within your application. Now we will dive deeper, basically into the registered user embedding. So we covered anonymous embedding now with registered user embedding. So with registered user embedding, the experience that the user has, you can actually embed a dashboard, you can embed the whole console, right? So this provides you the authoring capabilities that we have, that we get from the console itself. You can embed that whole experience for your end user. You can embed the Q search bar and also the visual ID, right? So let's dive deeper into how this is all done and what is the use case behind it, okay, and what is the key requirements for this to be done. Okay. So when do we use embedded registered user with API for embedding, right? If your requirement is to enable personalized experiences for your users, you would use embedding for registered users. When you require user management aspect, either by directly registering users in QuickSight, or you may set up single sign-on with your identity provided so that the user can federate into it. For these registered users, you can easily apply user level permissions like row level permissions, column level security to limit data access. You can control the access to other QuickSight assets like data sets, dashboards, as well as the actions that they can perform in a multi-tenant environment, right? When you require all these capabilities, right, and you manage your users within QuickSight or a federated identity, right, then you can use embedding for registered users, right? And you can track the usage and audit for all these users because they're all maintained. In the registered user embedding workflow, the QuickSight experience, as mentioned before, can be a visual, a dashboard, or the Q search bar, or even the console. The API call is called the generate embedded URL for registered users, right? We can see that this has a required parameter for user ARN, right? This is the QuickSight ARN or the user ARN, and that is mapped to the user login in an application. This is important, but because based on this call, whatever the user has access to within QuickSight, that is what is only accessible to him in with the API call, right? So when the API call returns, it will be secured, return the relevant information. With registered users, you actually get to embed the whole QuickSight console, right? So you can embed the whole authoring experience, and the users can log in and create their own dashboards, own data sets, right? Create analysis and publish the dashboard all within the embedding context itself. So once this is done, you see it has a parameter for initial path. So what is the parameter? So this is the landing page where users see when your build a QuickSight console is rendered for the first time, right? So we have different paths that you can go to. You can actually go to the favorites in the console. You can go directly to the analysis. You can go to the dashboard. That is what the landing page will look like when we log in. As before, for the visual embedding, we can provide in parameters for visual ID, sheet ID, and the dashboard ID. I do require the user ARN along with this, right? So this also for registered user, all of the calls require the user ARN. If you want to enable your users to ask questions in a similar way as we did in the anonymous embedding, this requires a user ARN to be passed, okay? And this will map your user to the embedding call. Okay. Now quickly, let's take a look at the demo for the API-based embedding. I'll switch on to my browser. So I have this React application that I've built, which is a fictitious company called Any Company for My Financial Data. This company basically provides some credit card information to the consumers, as well as a lot of merchants tied up with this credit card company that basically also have information, right? So what the end use case for this particular company is that, okay, so they want to give the credit card or the transaction details to the consumers, and for their merchants they want to be able to give the authoring experience. They want to give them their own data set, and they can come and analyze, create their own analysis, analyze their own data, and see how the consumers are performing for them, right? So in an ISV use case like this, right, where the merchants have access to the data and they can build their own dashboards. So this company is providing that information to the merchants, and just the dashboard layout for the consumer. So when I come in and log in as the consumer, okay, I get an access to the dashboard. So in this case, the person logging is the profile information, user information is getting passed to QuickSight as a part of the call. So you see, uh, Aidan Campbell has logged in, right? Okay, and he can basically see only his credit card information, all the transactions that he has made, his forecast for the monthly spend that has happened, and he can come in and interact and see all the data that he has, right? So if a different user logs in, okay, that user ARN is passed, and he'll be able to see only his or her information going forward, right? So this is the user experience, and as it behaves in the console, if you have interactivity added over here, right, the user can come interact. All interactivity is in this dashboard also, right? When my merchant logs in, uh, they see a self-service experience, right? So what does that look like? So now I'm embedding the whole QuickSight console. So you see, if you've logged into the QuickSight console, this is what the QuickSight console looks like. We have all our different assets that we can create, datasets, analysis, and dashboards. On the initial path, I specified add my favorites. So I have my dashboard and my analysis as favorites. So that was the landing part. As part of my API call, I provided that information, right? The user can log in, come in, whatever the user has access to, right? To secure data sets. So in this case, I've asked to a certain amount of data sets that have been shared with me. When I log in, I get access to that. I can use these data sets, create a new data set. If I have access to that information, I can come create my analysis, and then when I have published my dashboards, I can actually view the dashboards from here itself, right? I can also organize my content in my shared folders and my folders, okay? And then use my favorite to come if I have certain favorites that I want to access to, right? So the whole console experience is provided, and then the merchant can come create their own analysis and quickly find insights to the data that they have. Okay, so this is the console experience for the merchant. And also, we have QuickSight Q, which is a search bar that can also be embedded in the same context, right? And the data is secured behind the scenes. So whatever data the person has access to, okay, when he comes to start typing questions, okay, all this data is secured, okay, and been passed through, and that information is rendered according to the information that person has access to, right? So merchants coming in, they can query their own data. The information is rendered. Consumers coming in, if they have access to the QuickSight Q search bar, they will see their own data, right? So all of these different experiences, all within your application itself, right? Let me switch back. Okay. So now we've seen the different ways of doing API embedding, right? So you've seen the anonymous embedding using the API, and we've seen the registered users using the API. And you've seen the demo of what my application looks like. So how can I customize my application? How was I able to customize? What were the different features that were available to me to be able to make the look and feel similar to my application so that the user has a seamless experience? Okay. So the first thing that is required, basically, when you author rich dashboards, you're able to work with visual themes with the API support, basically, right? So the different options that you have at your disposal that you can use to make your look and feel as similar and as rich as possible, right? So you can actually change the sheet background. You can define a visual title. The data colors can be done in the theme. The text colors can be mapped. You can work with different fonts, different sizes. You have different layout options. You can specify the cutter, the page margin, the visual title border. You can actually conditionally render and hide visuals based on parameters, right? And then you can have controls. You can basically have selections and however accents. You can overlay the content on top of each other. Uh, with freeform layout, you can have pixel level sizing and spacing controls, right? You can do conditional formatting on your data. And then uh, the visual level formatting of all the grid lines, the axis labels, all the properties that you see for all the different visuals on the dashboard, all of that can be utilized to make or to author rich interactive dashboards. Once that is done and it matches everything on the application, then you can publish and embed that into your application. Okay. Doing a deeper dive on more customization, what can you do? Okay. You can add custom buttons like we have our print, the reset, and the export buttons. You can do that. You can switch the locale from your application into the embedded asset. You can pass parameters from application to the embedded asset and vice versa. So you can have dashboards and visuals. You have an application passing the parameter, and then you can interact with the dashboard and pass the parameter back. You can also listen to callbacks and invoke custom actions too, right? Like you have a sheet change, you have parameter change, what happens when you load something, what happens when there's an error that happens. You can all interact with those callbacks, right? And we did launch our SDK 2 or 2.0, and we will basically be looking at the SDK 2.0 in the upcoming slide, which gives you much more flexibility on working with the UI. Okay. So let's do a recap of the different embedding capabilities uh, within QuickSight, right? So I know we've covered a lot. Let's do a recap of what we have covered till now, right? So we started with two fundamentally different approaches, the UI-based and the API-based embedding. The UI-based one-click embedding is the low-code, no-code approach. You can embed dashboard for QuickSight manage users in enterprise, and for public, you can open it up to everybody, right? So that's a low-code, no-code option. With the API-based embedding, if you don't want to manage users, you can use anonymous embedding. If the requirement is to provide dashboards, allow ad hoc questions using natural language to allow authoring dashboards in the applications to get the console experience, or you can use embedding for registered users. Okay. Let's take a quick glance at the various options. I know we've covered a lot, but we'll try to summarize that and to see what various options are available with each type of embedding across four broad requirements, right? Namely, user management, the experience configuration, uh, enable via public, or with different kinds of data security that you have. So with one-click public, you need to enable public via admin settings in the console. With one-click enterprise, user management is required and data security is handled via RLS and CLS, row-level security and column-level security. With API anonymous, the experience configuration needs to be configured and data security is handled via session tags. And finally, for registered users using API, user management is required along with experience configuration, and data security is handled via row-level security or RLS and column-level security as CLS. So with all this, what does the user sign-in experience look like, right? So in case of one-click enterprise and registered user embedding, right? Once the user has been provided access to the dashboard or the visual, if single sign-on is enabled, right, the users won't be prompted to sign in again. If single sign-on is not enabled, users will be prompted to sign into QuickSight account with their credentials, and when they sign in, have proper authorization and access, they'll be able to see the desired information. So as mentioned before, we recently launched a new major version of the SDK 2.0 to improve the developer experience when embedding QuickSight into your application or website. All right, so with the newly introduced frame options and content options, it makes basically a unified embedding experience for all. So you have a lot of options that you can explore. The key highlights I'm going to highlight over here, but a lot of details are there in the community, and also there's a blog that has been written. If you have go to the community, you should be able to access all the detailed information of what is available through the SDK 2.0, right? So some key highlights basically is the SDK 2.0 adds several customization improvements, such as an optional preloader. So when a dashboard is loading, you can actually get a preloader, right? New external hooks for managing your undo, redo, and print options and parameters. For example, you don't have to have the navigation bar anymore. You can actually call the initiate print function as an external hook and then get the print option, right? You can also monitor interactions in embedded dashboard using the on message callback. A lot more options are there, right? If you go to the community, find a detailed blog, you'll get detailed information about this, the newly launched SDK 2.0. Okay. We have a lot of reference materials. All of this are there on the community portal also, right? So we have our embedded analytics documentation. You can access all the documentation for the CLI and the API. Uh, we also have a developer portal which actually provides you some sample codes, right? And all the links that you need to be able to develop your application. All the resources are provided there. We have free webinars that we host, like the one today, uh, that basically gives you a quick start on different topics that we have, right? So you can learn that, register for that events, join the QuickSight community, right? And then basically you can learn with others in the community also. We all have a feature demos in our demo central, and a lot of content that we as team develop gets posted to our demo central portal that you can access feature by feature wise, or demos on different use cases that we have, right? To do access our demo central, all of this information is again provided in the community. If you go over there, there are a lot of learning resources you can access from there. Okay. Also, stay tuned for the next session in the series, which is QuickSight event tracking with CloudTrail and the API data. That is on Wednesday, May 10th, 10 a.m. Pacific time, and Thursday, May 11th, 10 a.m. Central European time. Right? You can go on the community and register for that event. Okay. And thank you for attending the session. I will now stop sharing my screen